Hello everybody, it's your boy J-Mont back again with another video. Today's topic is, do you really want a traditional man? Now, I've been thinking about this a couple of days, just keep listening to panels. Shout out to Bernard Riley, shout out to BMT, shout out to lead attorney, shout out to everybody in the Black Manosphere, Red Pill, all of them, because I like their ideas because it makes you think like the dating marketplace, so intersectional dynamics between men and women, and how we, decide to group. Now, today's topic is, do you really want a traditional man? So this comes out of the premise that we look at the behaviors that women of 18 and plus do, so generationally, and ask, do you want a traditional man when you're acting non-traditional? If you're not a traditional woman, which means you don't seek sexual attention outside of your relationship, then why would a traditional man that has that stipulation as one of his core values want you? Think about it. Like Instagram, social media, that is mostly used by women, and most men are not on it as much, but socially interacting. Now, I don't know will that change much with your men only space, like the boys club used to be, uh, just men or a barbershop, but women come and go between that. So maybe the internet will have a men's central space like we do, but at this moment in time, it's mostly women. Uh, Now, here's another concept besides the core question. Do If you're not traditional? The answer is he would not. Sorry, I don't even know what I was trying to say, but let me reiterate that. If you're not a traditional woman, that means you're not showing behaviors and acting like a traditional woman, which means if you know what this traditional man wants in the woman, it's, uh, you do not consider his wants or needs, but instead complain, argue, belittle, shame to get him to acquiesce to what you are. Now, that does not stipulate or is very conducive to a long term relationship because it's incompatible. Because you're not a traditional woman and he's a traditional man. What usually happens, what we can see with the divorce rates filed by women over 70% of the time, is that a woman who's not traditional will get bored or seek something else that is not a traditional man, while a man will stay with the woman who's non-traditional because he's a traditional man, believes that you have to stick through the bad and the good. The wedding vows are to death do us part, but to be perfectly honest, nowadays it's more like till our feelings change, and that is very chaotic to sign an agreement and you can, with no repercussions, get out of it. It comes That's marriage laws in general, but if you're really thinking about it, if we have harsher penalties and harsher requirements to get into and get out of a marriage, it might be more conducive to a family unit because of the stricter requirements. That means that a person will appreciate it more if they get into it. Just like the Mile High Club, just like a corporate or something like that. If you work your way from the bottom to the top, in any situation, you will have a more of appreciation for the bottom jobs, but also understanding that it takes a lot of work to do what your job is. It's the same thing about how a trust fund baby versus a self-made man. A self-made man can lose it, but has the core values to get on his grind again and get it back up. While the trust fund baby didn't never had to work, never had to develop the skills to make it in this world. So if he loses it, he loses it. That's generally in a probability spectrum. That's usually what happens because of those set in core values. Now, here's some things a traditional man. I think three core things a traditional man really looks for is how many people have you had sexual intercourse with throughout your lifetime, your relationship with your parents and siblings, and the spending habits you have. These are the bare minimum a traditional man wants to know. Why? Because it's a conducive to evaluating your character and your mental space. For instance, sexual intercourse from women, because of the sexual liberation, women don't understand, I believe. Well, actually, I believe they truly understand how important sex is for a man and woman, especially since uh, primitive times before we had DNA tests, it was conducive to a woman not having a lot of sex because of fraternity of the child. The woman always knows it's his, but the father never did. So only having sex with him was the key evaluator into learning fraternity. Now, the other thing that we have to bring up is the STDs and sexually transmitted disease, which in especially in the African American community, most of the women have. So if most of the women have it, and they're going for a small percentage of men, that means the mass majority of men are okay because they, I would say, evaluate women. But we also know that sex is scarce from men, especially if you're an average man, because most women don't seek average men, even though it's statistically better to seek an average if you're average. But most average women think they're above average men, which is idiotic. But we also have to contribute that to social media and the rhetoric going around that a woman wants a six-figure man without understanding what it takes for that man to become six figures. The difference is this: women get their uh, value as a human being up front. Like Mother Nature gives them value, Father Time takes away. By saying that we understand the true value of what a woman brings. She's youth, beauty, and a womb to bear your children. Men are supposed to be a stable source of income, protection, and that what that means is to build himself up. Usually, a man has to be in his 30s to 40s before he reaches something. So that means equivalently, an 18-year-old man is as useless as a 50-year-old woman in a sense that she most 50-year-olds can't bear children, and if they do, there are significant health issues. There's a lot that goes wrong with that, and the same economically, 18-year-old man cannot bear the economic burden of raising a family. We also know that men die from stress and stuff like that. That's just like the equivalent, if you want. Now, let me get back to the topic because I usually go off on a rant, just, but let's see. Do you really want a traditional man? If the if the answer to this for you as a woman is yes, I want a traditional man, then you have to adhere to what a traditional man wants and try to image yourself as a traditional woman. Now, with the mass majority of women not being traditional in an American sense, you're going to have a harder time because you're going to have to evaluate your friends, family, and how you move. Most women don't understand that if he takes you out to a date, not only is he spending his money, but also you're taking up his time. He could be used to earning money. So that's what happens when couples stay young. Most young girls just get taken out because they're youth and beauty by older men who have somewhat established, or men who don't aren't established but want to seek a woman. I would say that this is a downfall for a lot of men, that they waste their time doing this instead of getting into their foundation, because a young man should understand what type of woman he wants. A father should instill the qualities that he needs in order to seek that woman and be successful in life. But because of mass majority of American boys being raised by a single parent household or non-traditional households with two parents, they lack the foundation for it, because how do I say this? If you lack the foundation for interpersonal relationships, it's going to be harder for you to develop the skills later in life because you haven't seen a model of a healthy one. So you have to work through the nicks and kinks of it. And then if you have kids in the mix, the kids are going to see the dysfunctional relationship. Though you might come out functional, but they're going to be mimicking you, and the dysfunction does not translate to another person very well. And that's a lot. The key thing is, do you? I don't think modern women want a traditional man, because traditional men have boundaries, strict boundaries that they've set for themselves and their partner. And from what I've heard about, like, I can get my own bag, I can take care of myself. You have to cook and clean and don't give a crap about you. You have to take care of me. Like, more modern women sounds like selfish, entitled, spoiled brats and stuff. Uh, Self-idealized women who are looking for an interdependent relationship between a man. Man, I go off on rants on this, but that's just my opinion on it. You can agree, disagree, but I don't think women modern day really want a traditional man, even though they say it. I don't think they really understand what they want. I think if you really want a traditional man, you will try to become a traditional woman. That would mean not having sexual liberty. Here's the real caveat. You want a traditional man, but you put yourself on the internet selling your sexuality. You literally you can get into clubs, venues, hotels, all these places without paying if you're a beautiful woman, and get access to these traditional high even high value men who are non-traditional. But instead of that, you chase money from men who can't get sexual access, so they spend money on stuff like pictures of you because those men. I'll be honest with you, those men really need some help because to me it sounds like most modern men. I said modern men, not traditional. Modern men are in a depression because they understand the sexual market value, so they rather pay to watch instead of going seeking out, which is inherent of how they're raised, and I kind of against our nature because we're hunters and providers. And here's the thing: if you just want to feel sexual gratification, I would argue instead of paying for these pictures, interactions with women online, I think men should just go get a escort or go Nevada across these and just get with a woman even because they're buying their attention and they're having dialogue, but they're not having a human interaction, which is a key flaw in that sense of online for a young man. If you're going with a woman who you pay for, at least you can have the same thing because you don't have to have intercourse with her. You can do the same thing, but you can build a dynamic of talking to attractive women with your money. And then you can understand the true hypergamy of women. You understand it if you're doing it online, but you have to get a physical aspect on it because if you're paying her, she can tell you the truth. Like you're fat, you're ugly, you have these flaws, and you can get better. If you're doing it over online, it's like a self protection, self mutilation in a sense of your ego and as men. That's why I think modern men need to really evaluate themselves. Understand that as a man, you have to stick to a code. You have to have your values that you adhere to, and you have to evaluate a woman based on how she acts, family, all this other stuff. And once we get back to basically, I believe, traditional values, both men and women, we can have a more conducive society. But I will also state this: America wasn't. America is a melting pot, or at least that's the definition of modern America. So a lot of traditional, a lot of just flowing, and I feel like because African Americans don't have a solid foundation of tradition in America itself, that's why there's such a, I'll say, negative connotation towards the community because they take in all the worst aspect of each hypergamous culture and situation. Man, I'm gonna end it here because I'm gonna keep going on rants. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Put the answer what you think down below. Do women really want a traditional man? Uh, thank you for listening and have a nice day.